Hey everyone, good evening or good morning or whatever time it is wherever you are. It's very nice to be together. Welcome uh, to the VDM Virtual Dalcrew's Meetup number 34. We've met 34 times, which is craziness. My name is Stephen Neely. I am your co-host, and my dear friend and colleague Veronica Boleski is here with me, and we are thrilled to say hi and to have a little meetup and share some ideas uh, from colleagues and with colleagues. So welcome. We were just before we hit record here, we were just talking about the International Conference of Dalcrew Studies that just wrapped up. Veronica and I both had some roles to play there, and Selma and Marlene I know were there, and we just had a grand time. Teo was there. We had a grand time hearing just tons of talks over a couple of days. So many interesting ideas.
I gave her a presentation too.
Oh, there we go. If we have any time at the end, I'm sure there's tons of things we could talk about just that were walkaways from the ICDS. Um, uh, Veronica, before we throw to breakout rooms, breakouts are next. I've got to look at my
Yeah, let's do our breakouts.
Okay, so the tradition always has been to make a couple quick breakout rooms and let everybody introduce themselves. So we will have you, when you get to your room, would you, if you're so willing, you don't have to, but it's nice if you'd be willing to introduce yourself, say where you're located, say, goodness, I'm losing my things. Who do you teach or who do you wish you taught? Why, isn't there a third thing, Veronica? What's my third thing?
I think that's it.
Is that it?
That's it. Yeah.
So you say hello, you introduce yourself, where do you live, and who do you teach? And you've got 3 minutes, and then we'll call you back, and we've got a couple of exciting presentations tonight. So you ready? Here you go. This recording. All right. People come back from the breakout rooms always with a smile, which I'm always happy to see. So welcome back. Veronica, we've got a couple announcements. So can I hand it over to you?
Yes, so we have one more masterclass with Helene Nicolay, and that class is on Saturday, November 13th, if you live in Americas, Europe, or Africa, and it is on Sunday, November 14th, if you live in Asia or Australia. And we hope you can come. I've only worked with Helene once, and she was lovely and just very, I don't know, just filled with joy. That was kind of what I remember about her. And Stephen knows her a little bit better, so maybe you can tell us more about her work.
I actually, yeah, I've known her for a number of years, but I actually haven't taken a class with her. She's compared to the names that maybe you've heard thrown around as international teachers. Helene is a younger teacher, and absolutely, she's more than an up and comer. I think she's arrived to many people's opinions, but she's still one of the younger of the crowd who was sort of called upon. She's in Geneva, and she's at the Institute Jacques Dalcrew's in Geneva, and she has held multiple administrative roles, as well as, I believe, full-time teaching with the Institute. And so she brings a lot of experience and sort of firsthand account of what is done at the Institute, which we're always extra little interested in to see kind of how things go there. So I'm thrilled that she had the time and made the time available to come and teach a class for us. So I'm definitely going to be there, and I would encourage everybody who can to join us at that masterclass coming up real soon. So get your reservation in, and then we'll know who's going to be there.
My next announcement, I actually missed the last meetup, so I don't know if you guys already compiled a list of stuff for.
No, I was hoping that Josh Mary would be here, and then we would, and would want to sort of initiate the conversation. So, and last meetup, we were packed to the hilt with 4 presentations. So we mentioned it and then said we'd talk about it at a future meetup.
Okay, Cool. I don't think she's here, so maybe I'll just ask her to come and add another one, and we can.
Yeah, and we can put it in the link. That is in the
So her
chat.
request is she is hoping to read about Dalcrow's and is looking for some electronic books or PDFs that she could find online because it's hard for her to order books and get them shipped to where she lives.
Got it.
I know she lives in South America. It's escaping me where exactly right now.
How's her English?
It's pretty good. I think she's hesitant to speak, but she understands it quite well. So we've been having mixed Spanish-English conversations. So anyways, if you all have some links to share, I think she would just really appreciate it. And to be honest, people email us about this kind of every 3 or 4 months. So I'm sure the list could also be useful for others as well.
Do you want us to put it in the chat? Or do you want us
That'd be
to
great. Yeah, if you just want to dump some links and ideas, that would be awesome. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, so one more masterclass coming up this season, the remainder of this year, and then I think that's good for announcements. We've got 2 presentations lined up for today. The first is Jenny Lang with Creative Play in My Chiapas Classroom. So Jenny, it is all yours.
Great. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I'm really excited to be here this evening to share with everybody what I've been doing here in Chiapas, Mexico. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar where Chiapas is. It's in the southernmost state of Mexico, very near the Guatemala border. And I've been here the past year teaching. I work at a university, but I don't work with only college age students. I work with children all the way up to through college students and even some adults. And I have a variety of age levels that I work with. My personal background is originally I'm from Minneapolis, and I do a lot of teaching of violin and viola. I have Suzuki background, and the last 4 years or so, I've gotten very involved with Dalcrow's and very passionate about it. So I wanted to, before I get started, I wanted to thank the virtual Dalcrow's community for all of the master classes that I've been able to participate in and integral steps as well. Without the support, I would not have been able to see so many enriching master classes that have given me a lot of ideas for my teaching. So without further ado, I'll just get right into my presentation. So there are a lot of things that I do to make classes more playful. And all of our classes, many of them are still online here in Chiapas. But one of the areas I'm most passionate about is Baroque music. And in the last couple of years, Baroque dance. And I know we were talking about Baroque dance at the beginning, so this kind of fits. And a couple of years ago, I started taking some workshops in Baroque dance, and it really enriched my understanding of how to perform like the minuets and the gavottes, the bourrées, some of the various dance forms. So many of them which show up in a lot of the Suzuki repertoire. And as a Suzuki teacher, I'm using a lot of that repertoire. So I found that it helped me understand the phrasing so much better, that it just seemed bizarre to me to not teach it to my students. And it didn't matter what age they were, if they're 9 years old or 30 or 80 years old, that they should learn these dance steps. So that is what I want to share with you today. So what I usually do to kind of whet my students' appetite is I get them thinking about the Baroque era and kind of what it would have been like to dance a gavotte and to be in the Palace of Versailles and to wear a wig and a big dress and the costumes of the Baroque era. So what I do is I usually show some video clips from like Marie Antoinette, the movie that shows a lot of the Baroque dance and the costumes. And then I invite them to share their reactions. Like, what did you like? What did you think was weird? Like, what did you think of the costumes and the wigs? And we talk about that, and I get various responses. And from there, we go into some, what I like to call time travel. So I invite them to think like, okay, if you were going to dance that gavotte or that beret or that minuet, what kind of dress would you wear? Or what color dress would you have on? And so we kind of get into the imagery of it and a little bit of time travel. And then from there, I start to teach some of the Baroque steps that I have learned. And in a minuet, we know that it's basically grouped in 2-bar phrases for the dance form, 2-bar phrases of three beats per measure, so 6 beats total. And so you have a step, 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 bend, which is the preparation for the next sequence of dance steps. And that's the most basic step, is the step, 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 bend. So in a minuet that would be very familiar to all of you, it would go da 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 dum bum ba da 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 dum bum. And I show this to my students with my hands because it's easier to see in a Zoom window or in a Google Meet window. And once they get comfortable with that, then we move it over to the feet. And I lower my camera and we have some fun and we work with the feet. And once we've done this a couple of sessions, I open it up a little bit because I don't want them to get confined into just using their hands or their feet. And we kind of experiment with other parts of the body. And this gets into the Dalcrew's language of kind of like improvisation and how we can do this a little bit differently and feel that beat 1 kind of strong. And from there, we move it over to the instrument, to the violin or viola in my case. And, you know, how can we make that first beat feel strong? You know, are we going to use more speed like we did when we made that first step? Or are we going to use more bow, more distance? We're going to cover more distance with that, like we did with that first step. So more distance with our bow too. And I've been really surprised. I wasn't sure if all my students would like the dancing, but you know, I've had my teenagers get really excited about it and get really creative with their movements. And they remember the lessons really well. And then when they go to play, I definitely hear more energy in their playing and more phrasing that would certainly help the dancers. And we talk about that too, that why is it important to play it like this? And we talk about how the dancers need that extra energy on the upbeats and that if they don't get that, they might fall, which kind of makes the students laugh a lot of the time to think of a dancer falling over or running out of energy. So they realize how important it is. So that is just one of the ways that I incorporate movement and Dalcrew's into my classroom here. And I wanted to keep my presentation to the 5 minutes. So I can stop here and invite questions.
Thank you, Jenny. We are going to have lots to talk about. We'll have Sonia present and then we'll kind of have a discussion about them all. But thank you so much, Jenny, for sharing.
Thank you.
Excited to share that. Yes. Sonia, please go ahead.
Okay, sound test. Everyone can hear me? Cool. Just shoot that angle. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sonia, and I teach rhythmics at the Cleveland Institute of Music. Today, I'd like to share with you the functionality and usage of the metronome as an expressive phrasing device as to how it's just a machine that shows you how fast or slow you should play the beats. And for that purpose, we're going to use the song Simple Gifts from Appalachian Spring by Copeland, and we're just gonna go right to it. Please hum along with me if you want to. I'm assuming everyone sang beautifully, even though I can't hear you. Um, so let's just pretend this is a new piece of music that you've given to your student. They have absolutely no idea of how to approach it, how to go about it. And one of the first things that I like to do with them is just to start simple, start short, start somewhere that is a fragmentation of an elaboration that you can expand on later. So one of the fun things to do here is to ask them to either play or sing the pickup and only the first note of the downbeat, just feel the downbeat first, and turn that first note into a drone. So let's try that out.
Sonia, before you go, can I ask, is your original sound on?
How do I do that?
Are you on a laptop?
Yes.
Under the mute button. So there's the mute microphone button, and then you click the little arrow beside it. And then you would go to the bottom.
Internal microphone.
No, you go to the bottom option, which is called advanced, or rather audio settings. Go to audio settings, the last option.
Oh, audio options, yep.
Audio settings. And then on the window that pops up there, you go about halfway down, and there's a marking that says music and professional audio.
Whoa, I don't see that.
At the very top of the screen, it should say settings and then speaker, and then a little lower microphone. So try again. Under the beside the mute button, there's a little arrow, and the bottom option is called audio settings.
It's called audio options.
I wonder if you are running with a really old version. Okay, so
yes, I don't think I'm updated with Zoom because I've been using Teams all this time.
That's okay. So when you click audio options, try going to the very bottom of that new screen. Does it give you an advanced button or like a second screen?
No, I think this is probably really outdated on my computer.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. We could hear it. It just wasn't quite as good as I think we'll get when we can find the original sound.
Would it help if I move the computer a little closer to my piano?
I don't think so. It's just trying to adjust your volume for you. And because Zoom's optimized for talking, not for music, unless you tell it otherwise.
What if I do it here?
That sounds pretty good. Let's try there.
Okay. All right. Let me adjust this so my face is not on.
So sorry to interrupt you. You were off to a great start.
No worries. We were on the downbeat and the pickup. So we're gonna turn that first note of the downbeat into a drone. Let's try it. Once you get the idea, just come along with me. No pickup. What about 2-bar phrases? Pick up and the first note turned into a drone and every other downbeat this time, not every single measure. Let's try it. At the end here, let's pause real quick. So if we said, okay, keep it strictly 2-bar phrases, and hopefully if they had the urge of coming back to the tonic at the end of that phrase there, that could be another open discussion of how harmonic rhythm speeds up towards the end of the phrase sometime, right? Okay, I'm going to actually put that on the metronome this time. Let's phrase it 4 bars and see how that works with the metronome. Okay, I'm gonna do a quick sound test first. Can everyone hear that? Great. All right, we're gonna go straight to it. It's a really long drone. You're welcome to let the sound fade. You're welcome to keep singing it, take a breath, and keep singing the same note until it changes. 4-bar. Ready? Here we go. Dum dum. Dum dum. Dum dum. And we're back to the beginning again. So really the idea is, yes, when you see the tempo marking on the page, that it might say quarter note equals to 96 beat per minute. And hopefully they don't really stay on that for way too long. Will they still be able to shape the music nicely, play it as expressive as they can, but still be able to keep that time frame, right, that is given on the page. So will they be able to keep up with 24 beat per minute? That's our 1-bar phrase, right? 12 beat per minute, 2-bar phrases, and eventually get to 6 beat per minute, 4-bar phrases. It could go as long as you want. We use this exercise at CIM. We call it the cosmic whole note. So this whole note is stretched out so long to just fit different types of phrase structure and length. And I would like to also give credit to Cynthia for her masterclass on theme and variation. I saw in the video that some of you attended that conference. So every year I try to switch up the repertoire for a cosmic whole note. And this year I saw her video. I was like, wow, what a great piece to use here. So thank you, Cynthia. I've never really met you in person. I've already loved your video. I hope I can see you sometime in person. Cool. I hope this is helpful for everyone. Thanks so much for listening.
Hey, thank you so much. Very good. And I've heard rumors of the cosmic whole note for a while, and I was excited to get a extra little clip about it. So good. Well, I think we have now, we've got a little bit of time. And this time, as opposed to the last meetup, we actually have a little bit of room to say hi and ask a couple questions and offer some comments. And then if we end up with any extra time at the end, I'm sure we could easily fill it by talking about some of the things we participated in the ICDS just this last week. So we have really just a lovely demonstration from Jennifer Lang. I just loved everything that was going on. And Jennifer, I have to say, your sort of like teacher spirit was so clear and like just dead on right from the beginning. I would gladly sit in your class and learn some dance steps. And Sonia is a dear friend of mine, and I look for ways to hang out with Sonia anytime, any chance I can. So we have two really good.
No, guys, it's the other way around.
So we have two really nice presentations. Does anybody have any questions or comments for either of our presenters?
Hi, Sonia. She was my roommate one summer, so.
Hi, Leslie.
my sweet mate at Carnegie Mellon. Now, I think I was trying to get into everything you were saying. So are they moving when they're doing, like, I wasn't really sure, like we were sitting here, but would you like want people to gesture for that long? I don't know if I realized that.
Yep.
Okay.
So however many bars that they're shaping, they will have to show it in their arms and keeping the subdivisions in their feet. There's many ways to go about it depending on which repertoire they're thinking. Eventually, we get to a point where we start with a piece that's unified so we can exercise. And then once they get the idea of that, we internalize everything so they can use their own repertoire to make it more of a personalized process.
Yeah, because that's a really important aspect of music that I never heard anybody else talk about, harmonic rhythm, except in Dalcrew. Like, I never heard of that, honestly. Like when I was taking
piano, it needs to be talked about.
I know, when I was taking piano, it was always lift your hands, get louder, get softer, you know. And when I did tell my piano teacher what I learned in eurythmics, he told me she was not the piano teacher, and I couldn't talk about it. I wasn't allowed to say anything because it's that physical sensation of one place to the next, like, and that long thing really gives you like all what you need for like the crucis and the anacrucis, and the anacrucis, the crucis, the meta, the whole thing. So that's really interesting. And I had heard about the cosmic whole note too, and I wondered.
Oh yes, there's been a lot. And really, our idea is to encourage our students. I mean, they're all aspire to be orchestra musicians, and it's unavoidable to use that because you have to perform at a given tempo, and for them not to either shy away from the metronome or to abuse the machine too much that it just sounds so beady all the time.
Yeah. Right. So making it that really big beat really does take away that that machine feel.
It feels different. It's like nearly just a check mark. It's like, oh, I'm there, or I'm close. And sometimes close is good enough, sometimes it's not.
Like that long space thing, like I've taught some pit orchestra musicians in New York, and they said they forgot that they're playing music, basically, like because they're so busy cranking out notes. And so they do the simplest thing in eurythmics and they go, oh, and then they start feeling the music again. Like they forget about the music, actually. They're playing music, but they don't remember. So that kind of thing is really useful. So thank you.
Very good. Other comments or questions for either of our presenters? Go ahead, Veronica.
I think, Jenny, you are doing something important in that last step where you have them play their instruments and where you talk about how did the movement you just did, how are you going to now change your playing, and you have the instruments there in the room rather than being like, okay, go and do something with that and hope your private teacher talks about it. And maybe you make that connection on your own. Like, I think choosing to spend part of your lesson time on saying, how is your bow going to change as a result of what you just moved and felt? Like it just makes me want to do that more in my own teaching as well. And to think about, as a flute player, I'd be very curious, Jenny, if you think that the bow arm, like that the weight and momentum of the bow arm is a direct correlation to the moving body. Because as a flute player, I think I often get into trouble if I like decide to add some momentum into my body as I play, it actually ends up hurting my technique, because what I needed was momentum in my air, not momentum of like the physical body or the fingers. It's like a more like circuitous process to still get that sense of momentum and direction. But I just like, I don't know, it took me a long time to kind of unpair the Dalcrow's momentum from like the air momentum that is, it just feels different. So I'm curious whether the bow arm to you has that direct correlation to the moving body, or whether you also have to like make some adjustments.
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I don't know if anyone's ever asked it to me quite that way. Oftentimes when I'm working with my students, I talk about the bow actually, and the bow arm, or more specifically the bow as being the air, like the vocal cords kind of the instrument. Because oftentimes as string players, I don't know how many string players are here in the room, but students get so focused on their left hand because the left hand is doing all the shifting and all the cool fast stuff, and the bow is just kind of like on automatic pilot, right? But oftentimes students can have really good technique here with the left hand, but their bow arm is just like, they're not even thinking about what their bow arm is doing. So the analogy I make to them is often like a singer, and if I were a singer and I just went ba 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 ba, and I sang like that, and they can hear that it has no life in it and no energy, because I'm not changing anything. I'm not breathing more air into certain notes. I'm not speeding up my air. I'm not changing the volume. I'm just kind of sitting stagnant. And I tell them that's kind of how you're going to sound if you're not changing your bow around at all. Now, the direct correlation with like the Dalcrow's movements, I guess with regards to the minuet that I was teaching, well, we talk about that first step as being, more emphasis. And when you take that step, when you're dancing, there's maybe a little bit more speed, kind of to like push you off. So there's that kind of analogy when they play that first note, more speed. So in that sense, there is kind of a direct correlation. But I did want to bring up the fact of the bow arm being like the voice in the air, and like we need that to infuse energy in our music. So I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, I have a follow-up. So I guess I'm thinking about on the flute my air speed, like to create to create faster air. I'm not gonna like use any weight in my body of like weight falling or interacting with gravity. I'm gonna use like my rib muscles to like send out a faster airstream. But that feels very different than taking a step that like responds to gravity. And like of course I still need gravity as a flute player, but like I have this thing that is like independent of gravity, which is like my airstream. So I don't know if you have comments.
That's interesting.
On that.
Yeah, because in Dalcrews we're always moving, right?
And it's like our body interacting with gravity.
Right, and as a wind player, you need some of that core energy. So I don't know, maybe there's something more to be done or explored with Dalcrews and kind of like in place movements. There are all sorts of different kinds of breathing techniques, right? Like there's like the kind where you breathe in like a big inhalation and then you do fast things like that, like things I learned in yoga and other techniques. So maybe there's something to be done with Dalcrews and like your stomach going to a rhythm. So like you're not moving your arms or your legs, but you're moving your stomach in and out. So
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I want to remind you that Dalcrews is trying to create experiences and sensations and impressions with the larger world of body and movement, so that we have those images to draw from when we make music. So it's not that we're literally taking a movement from the Dalcrews class and putting it on our instrument. We have to go through a couple more steps first. We have to have lots and lots and lots of experiences physically before we can, I'm a pianist, sit at the piano and make that happen energetically through the musical audiation and imaging, and then the energy of it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think that I teach under a very similar, or at least I think of it under a very similar heading as well, where we of course do lots and lots of huge, big body, quite exaggerated gestures, and lots of swaying around and sort of moving with every little bit of sound that's in the room. But the hope is that that external gesture wouldn't be necessary as somebody finds their way to the performance stage. And I don't mean, Veronica, in any way to say that that's what you were saying, but sometimes my students get confused, especially newer students. My first semester undergraduate students will sometimes think that I'm the guy who wants them to gyrate on stage or at their private lesson. And I have to say, like, no, please don't mess with whatever the technique that your teacher's asking of you, please don't mess with that. I'm just giving you images that you hopefully will feel so deeply that there'll be an internal model for you to sort of try to recreate the sensation of rather than it needing to be displayed. So I think as we record these VDMs, and we know we have some people who are very new to the Dalcrews methods, it's helpful to take just a moment to make these clarifications, to say we absolutely move a lot and we're constantly looking for gesture. And I'll ask my students, as we analyze this piece, where is the motion? And then we'll sort of get into conversations about such things. That is to eventually be the inner felt experience of motion, is the way I think of it, rather than needing to be an external attention. It's good. We could talk about this particular point. I'm nowhere near done talking about this, but I feel like I should give the floor back over, and if anyone has more questions or comments. Selma.
Actually, I've just been working on Jacques Dalcrew's breathing exercises from his earliest work, which were
Ooh.
extensive and which are notated.
Tell us
And,
about that.
well, it's a sort of area that hasn't been pursued in practice particularly, but it's all there. And I'm endlessly fascinated by it because I think it really is such a key to all the work with phrasing and expression. In the ICDS-5, actually Changfeng Lin showed a breathing, had everyone explore one of these very early breathing exercises, which he has been working on, and we've consulted about this quite a bit, but it's not known work. It really is there to be pursued because people don't teach it or work with it particularly. But just as one example, the idea of pulsation breathing, which you may have met in some other setting, is clearly notated. It's an incredibly intricate and accurate notation system. So you can really see how he was working on this in the first years of the method. It's prioritized along with walking or marching. Those are the two sort of elements, but it isn't really something that has been particularly practiced as a thing. But anyway, I'm just working on a little workshop about it for a different set of people because I find it really impressive. And the fact that he was doing this in the early years when in Europe, yoga teaching was coming into popularity in the very early 20th century, and other methods of rhythmic movement besides his and some that people may have encountered somewhere else. It's quite revealing. I'll go in a minute. I'll come back with a page so you can actually see what this notation looks like. But carry on. I'll just see.
Very good. We love Selma Odom so much. Oh, she's so quick.
Well, I have this at the forefront because I'm working on it. So this is his first method publication, 1906. And the notation, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but the notation at the top are the notations for movements or steps and gestures. And then at the bottom of the page, breathing notations. Yeah. So just to see, what they look like, I don't know if it's clear enough, but you can see that they're on the left side. You can see brackets, things that look like brackets, and E's and vectors. And those are the basic notations, which he then presents in grouped rhythms. Maybe I could do a little talk about this on a separate occasion, but it's really interesting.
I think we're way ahead of you there, Selma. We will definitely be begging you to come and make a presentation about such things.
Yeah, we have to hear about this.
It's rich material, and Changfeng has really been at the forefront now, working on it as well. So it's good. He and I could do something together, maybe.
Yeah, we would love that. We've been trying to get
I'll send you both an email, and maybe we can get you to coordinate and come to another VDM.
Thank you so much.
A lot of fun, and very important. The whole idea of breathing and movement are both very important in the whole early development of the work. So
good. Thank you so much for that. The breathing is another one that I'd gladly talk for 40 minutes just about Stephen Neely's opinions about breathing in the classroom and breathing for musicianship. I got no shortage of opinions about all of that as well. What else do we want to ask or comment on? Sonia, can you tell us and as you're teaching the cosmic whole note, when does the metronome first come out? Is there a point where it's just like when you're doing the 1-bar version, is the metronome playing at the 1-bar version and you can hear the click in the room? When do you get out the metronome?
So the first time that I introduced it, it's always some sort of a repertoire based and something that is more singable until they can internalize it and use something else. I don't start using the metronome until it's either 24, 12, or 6 beat per minute. So probably 12 to 6 beat per minute. And then the second time we come around, if they already forgot about that 1 bar of a 24 beat, then I might shorten that a little bit but immediately stretch that length into something that is bigger, because we don't really want to encourage them to feel the 96 beat per minute all the time, even though I tell them that you're more than welcome to solidify that pulsation by practicing with the 96. It's easier to find. And actually, since I mentioned that, if you have an iPhone, tempo events might be something that's worth looking into, because it gets really, really low. Like some normal metronomes might not be able to get down to 6 beat per minute. But if you're looking for solid numbers, you can also find it on YouTube. I mean, type in 4 beat per minute, 5, but you can't really get into the decimal points unless you have the app or a Dr. Beat. Right.
Very cool. And then do you all express, as you're teaching it, opinion about, does it only matter that they can hit the 12 beat per minute or the 6 beat per minute, and whatever's in between could have gotten a little faster, a little slow, just so that they are able to hit the next beat?
We'll be able to do that because they will be showing the subdivision. So there will be in movement that whole time. I would just get them to step to the 96 and then phrasing it, whether if it's 2-bar phrases, 4-bar phrase, some of them even go as far as 8 bars. And some of their repertoire have asymmetrical phrasing. So they would shape it in 3, shape it in 5. There's so many variations there. Sure. And during the exams, for the first one, I leave it up to them. I just say, if you want to internalize the process that helps you to be expressive and accurate, because we care for both of those things, then you can silence the voice and then just do the movement part. But if you feel like singing, it's part of your process, some of it sings out loud and it works quite well. And I do grade expression more than accuracy, but both are factors that I take in account into the grading process.
Very good. The name of that app again?
Oh, Tempo Advance. I think it might be like $1 to $2 now. It used to be only like 99 cents. I think it's gone up because it's gotten popular, I guess.
Yeah.
And Veronica, I think I've met you very briefly. I did present a tiny
little... I am remembering now. I'm so sorry. I was like...
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Who's got a question? Oh, this is Jennifer?
It's Jenny. Yeah. So I'm wondering about whether the students do this as a group activity. Like, is the whole class kind of doing all the subdivisions, or a couple students, or for their final projects?
Question for me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I was distracted looking at the chat.
Jenny, ask your question again.
I was wondering about when the students are moving and doing the subdivisions, are they doing this as a group or individually or mix?
Yes. Okay. Cool. That's a great question. Well, because eurythmics is a very communal thing, and then when they're in the classroom, they are bound to interact with other students. So when we first introduced this exercise, we just keep it at 6 beat per minute, and eventually expand that into 3 to 6 beat per minute, and a little bit above that, a little bit below that. I would start with the same tune. So Simple Gift, or there's that Mozart, something they can sing together. So it would be a synchronized exercise first until they can do something more individualized with it. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, and then I guess my other question would be, have you had any feedback from the students about how this has, I know, have any of them come to you and been like, wow, like this exercise has really helped me in my solo playing and this repertoire, and like, have you had any feedback like that?
All the time. Most of them really love it, and you know, a lot of other things you can do with it is that you know, don't market for yourself. Give other people a high five right on that, you know, return section. So it turns into some sort of interaction that mimics orchestra playing chamber music. That is not a solo situation because we want them to be comfortable in any given circumstance. Right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Cristano has a note in the chat which we can help with. He's in Brazil, and there he goes. So if anybody has extra activities or practical things, he's looking for resources. I met Cristano at the ICDS just this last week, and he's new to the work and looking for any resources he can find. We have just about 7 minutes. Other questions for either of our presenters, or anything? Anybody want to go a little something that was fun about the ICDS, or other things that are coming up? Hi, Sweeming. It's so good to see you.
Yes, very good. I hope that I can join more because of the ICDS. I was so busy.
Yes, it was really busy. You presented, didn't you?
Yes.
What was your presentation about?
It's also just I try to use the expressive language that developed, in the body that developed by Laban to put into practice into teaching Eurythmic. So it's just like you to be more conscious about what we express and how to find our natural movement of the body, and also how to see the expression in the term of as a language from the body point of view, and from how to understand in the music what is the expression, how to come down together. So I gave a lot of exercise that they really like.
I'm sure we love everything that you put together, and so it's so much fun working with Sweetman. So
thank you very much for asking me last time, because that it really helped me. Because it's such a, it's always kind of, when you do something new, it's just like you always, nobody else that you can look to ask anything. Yeah. So it's a little push for me to go forward the little path, and also help me to develop it a little bit further. Now I can, come a little bit more, and so this is very good. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry I missed your presentation live, but I'm looking forward to seeing the recording of it. Thank you. So very good. With just a couple minutes, we have time for another one or two things. Veronica, how did you? Selma had a hand up. Go for it, Selma.
If anyone knows or can tell me the story of the cosmic whole note, where that name came from, I'm really fascinated by that, and I don't think I've heard it said before. But is it a Cleveland Institute?
I believe that, yes. I believe that is passed on from our formal head of the Eurythmics department, David Brown.
David Brown?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that really interests me as a historian, because I've met Elsa Findlay, and I believe, Terry, you and I met a long time ago, and only much later did I learn that you had studied with Elsa. Is that right?
No, I never studied with her directly, but I did. Okay. Yeah, I taught at CIM for 11 years.
Anyway, I'm just curious about things like this. How do these named things get started and get perpetuated? So if anybody ever finds out about the cosmic whole note, it would be fun to share that information, I think.
Selma, are you coming to the DSA National Conference in Cleveland in January?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be possible, because there are all these border crossing. I live in Canada, and so one week it might sound possible, the next week it sounds impossible because of all the restrictions. So I haven't
Yeah.
signed up for anything, but I wish I could come.
Yeah, I just went to a conference in Cleveland and the Canadians, some of them had problems. Some of them, yeah.
Well, fingers crossed for wellness all around and open borders as quickly as it is safe. I'm planning on being there. And if you don't know what we're talking about here, then Dalcrew Society of America's national conference happens every 4 years.
Hopefully two.
Every 2 years, sorry. Every 2 years. And this year, coming up in January, it's in the middle of January, around the 15th or the 17th, 17 and 19 maybe, it will be at Baldwin Wallace in Berea, Ohio. And so we'd encourage everybody to buy your tickets and sign up and go. We started actually right before we hit record, we were talking about the ICDS and how it's a different kind of conference, whereas the Dalcrew's National Conference is the first kind of Dalcrew's conference that I ever knew about, where there's lots of teaching, lots of opportunities to meet other people and take class together. And so a lot of what will happen at the DSA conference will be hands-on. And so you can participate and jump into classes and meet different people teaching. At the
14th, 15th, 16th of January.
There you go. So I would very much encourage everybody to sign up for that. Jenny?
And also, so the conference registration is live on the website, Dalcrew Society of America website. And also if you have students who would like to be interns, that application is live on the website.
Hashtag Nicole. All right, moving on. Jenny?
Just a couple of questions. I wonder if any part of that conference will be available live stream. And then the second question is whether our community will continue to meet after this, the virtual Dalcrew's community, and next year, January, February, March.
Veronica, do you want to, Terry might know about the first question.
Yes, we're hoping not to do virtual, but we're sort of having maybe possibly, right, Sonia? Because the rooms do have cameras because of the pandemic, but we're making it really safe for everyone to be there in person.
So stay tuned.
Because I'm in Mexico and it's a little bit for
me to make
that trip.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're talking to some of the right people, Jenny. So duly noted. And then Veronica.
Oh well, I just wanted to say we will be around at Virtual Dalcrew's meetup as long as people keep coming. So.
Yep.
Amen to that. And did you guys already give the scholarship spiel for
next week? We did not. We were waiting for you, and it's our last words of the evening. Emma Shubin, co-host, and
join us. Helene Nicolet is presenting with us for the masterclass coming up. She's amazing. She did a whole a year or even some more time at the Laban Institute in New York. She is an amazing diplômée, is kind of set to be the next head of Institut Jacques Dalcrew, maybe at some point down the road. She's a wonderful human. Recently had a baby and has said yes to coming and working with us, even though she's been off for quite some time. So we're just very honored that she is going to be with us, and I don't think you want to miss it. You're going to have lots of ideas. She's very well paced in her teaching. I've taken many classes with her and always felt very lucky to be there. So we have scholarships available for those who need, and you don't want to miss it because not a lot of us are getting to Geneva at this very moment in the times of this world. So we hope that you'll join us.
And Veronica, do you have any other parting words?
There is one more meetup. So sorry, don't have it pulled up. So we have a meetup on November 8th or 9th, and then just kidding, guys. There's a November 8th, 9th meetup, and then there's the masterclass with Helene, and then there's one more meetup November 22nd, 23rd, which is right before Thanksgiving in the US. So we'll see you then, and then we'll be back in January.
Right on. So 3 more times to hang out with the cool kids, and then a holiday, And then we will, before the holiday comes, we will publish a schedule for the new year. And we're just thrilled to see everybody. Thank you so much for coming. As always, there's so much more we could have talked about tonight, which I think is kind of the exciting part. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to our presenters, to Sonia and to Jenny. We look forward to seeing everybody again November 8 or 9, depending on where in the world you are. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.
Bye-bye.